I never thought I'd see the day an HOA tried to claim ownership over a business park. But that's exactly what happened. See, when I'm not wrangling cattle or repairing fences, I run a small construction company, offices, warehouses, and all. It's located in a commercial complex on the edge of the county. A nice little development that I quietly bought outright about 6 years back. Yup, I don't lease space there. I own the entire complex. Every building, every parking lot, every patch of grass between the sidewalks. But somehow, that little fact slipped by the self-proclaimed queen of regulations herself, HOA Karen. It started when the HOA expanded their community jurisdiction to include neighboring commercial properties for aesthetic purposes. That's fancy HOA talk for we want control over everything we can see. One morning, I showed up at the office and found bright orange HOA violation stickers slapped across my windows. Apparently, my company trucks were too dusty, my flagpole was too tall, and my employee's lunch trailer? Visually disruptive. I laughed so hard I nearly choked on my coffee. Then I called the number on the sticker. Karen answered, of course. Hello, HOA of Lakeside Estates. How may I? Karen, it's me, I interrupted. Why are there stickers on my building? She sniffed. Because your property violates our aesthetic standards. You'll need to attend the next HOA board meeting for review. I grinned. I think you're confused. I'm not in your HOA. You are now, she said smugly. We extended coverage. It includes your office park. Karen, I said, trying not to laugh. That property isn't part of your development. I built that entire complex from the ground up. Well, it looks like part of the neighborhood, she snapped. Therefore, it falls under our aesthetic covenant. You ever hear silence so stupid it makes your brain hurt? That was the moment. I figured she'd eventually realize her mistake. But no, Karen doubled down. A week later, she showed up in person, clipboard in hand, wearing a reflective vest that said, Property Compliance Officer. She marched right into my lobby, snapping photos, measuring shrubs, and lecturing my receptionist about illegal signage. My staff called me immediately. By the time I got there, Karen was in full-on inspection mode, pointing at blueprints and telling my foreman he needed HOA approval for renovations. I walked up slowly, calm as a sunrise. Afternoon, Karen. Mind telling me what you're doing in my building? She turned, already annoyed. Sir, this property is out of compliance with HOA guidelines. I've already called the sheriff to issue a citation. I smiled. Oh, you called the sheriff? Yes, she said proudly. He'll make sure you stop this unauthorized construction immediately. Perfect, I said. Let's wait together. 10 minutes later, a patrol car pulled up. The deputy stepped inside, looking around cautiously. Karen pounced. Officer, this man is building without HOA approval. The deputy frowned. Ma'am, this is a commercial zone. Karen scoffed. It doesn't matter. The HOA voted to include it in our district. The deputy turned to me. Sir, you the property owner? I pulled out a folder, original deeds, tax receipts, and ownership certificates. Yep, I said. Not just this building. The whole complex. He blinked. The whole thing. Every square foot, I said, handing him the papers, including the one she's standing on. He turned to Karen. Ma'am, you're trespassing on private commercial property. She froze. That's impossible. I smiled. Actually, it's not just possible. It's legal fact. The deputy sighed. Karen, I'm going to need you to step outside. She started shouting about jurisdiction and citizens' rights as he gently escorted her out. By that afternoon, the story was all over the local news. HOA president calls police on building owner. Didn't know he owned the entire office park. Turns out, she'd also mailed violation notices to every business in my complex, all addressed to herself as head of regional oversight. That little stunt cost her HOA a small fortune in legal fees after my attorney filed a cease and desist for harassment and defamation. 2 weeks later, the HOA quietly retracted their expansion, Karen, however, couldn't let it go. She sent me one last email. You might own the land, but you'll never own community respect. So I replied with a photo of my employees grilling steaks outside the office, under a big banner that said, Private Property, no HOA allowed. And just for good measure, I renamed the main building on county records. The new name? Karen's Folly Business Center. Now, every time she drives past that sign, she gets a nice reminder of what happens when she tries to play boss on my land. And as far as I'm concerned, that's the only HOA violation that ever truly mattered. Harassing a man who owns the ground you stand on. Smiling face with sunglasses.